What's going on, everyone? So Tobias Harris is looking for a new team this NBA offseason. His time with the Philadelphia 76ers looks all but done. They're going to go a different direction. Obviously, I don't think he gets the paycheck that he's coming off of, but I do think that he's still a guy that could probably get somewhere, I think, anywhere from like 15 to maybe 22 million, right? He's 31 years old. He's not like, he can be incredibly frustrating at times, right? Like, there's times where he's just really hot and cold. When he's on, he looks great, right? He looks like a guy that go get you buckets, right? He's a 17-point-a-game guy, but like when he's on, he's money. Like, he could be a legit scoring weapon, legit scoring threat. I do think is a starter in this league. Guy that can rebound, do multiple things, kind of slot in. He's best at the four, but he can kind of fill in different areas, different positions. But for the most part, he's a guy that still, I think, has a lot left in the tank. Getting 31 years old, right? So I could see in the right situation him getting a little bit of a bag. He does have his liabilities. He does have his questions. He does have kind of, again, the inconsistencies is really what it boils down to at times. But I do think in the right situation, on the right team, in the right environment, I do think Tobias Harris is a guy that can really shine, really make an impact on a team. He's not your first, second, or even third guy, but as like your fourth, fifth guy on the roster, I think he is, a high level fourth or fifth guy. Like if Tobias Harris is your fourth or fifth guy on your roster, you're probably really good, right? Probably a very good basketball team. But Tobias Harris basically being your second guy on many nights, or, being your third guy at best, I think it depends on who your other two main guys are. But the question is, where will Tobias Harris land, right? Where is he going to go? Which team is going to take a flyer on him? And will he actually be able to get a bag? Again, I don't think he's making $40 million a year or anything like that, but I do think I could see, a team in the right situation maybe giving him, like I said, 18, maybe 20 million. I think he's probably going to be around probably 15 million, probably my guess, in that ballpark area where I think he could be. Maybe a team would overpay for him just to have as kind of a placeholder, as like a stopgap guy. But I do think it boils down to, what does Tobias Harris want, right? Does he want to go to a contender? Because if he wants to go to a contender, then he's probably not making that much money. But if he wants, a bag, then he's probably going to one of these other teams. But one of the teams that are reportedly interested in obtaining Tobias Harris are the San Antonio Spurs. Per reports, San Antonio is very interested in bringing in Tobias Harris. I don't mind it, right? Like, San Antonio, it seems like they want to kind of, just judging off of the reports that are coming out, kind of want to do a similar Rockets route, right? Where you're bringing in kind of vet guys to intertwine with your young core. And Tobias Harris, I think, does make sense. You slot him in at the four. So you could have like Wemby and Harris. They probably go... if they end up drafting Sarr, right, then I don't think that Tobias makes sense at that point, right? Because, again, I think Tobias is probably best at the four. So if they go Sarr, then you're probably putting Sarr at the 5, Victor at the 4, and that's probably how they're going to go. There's a lot of talks about them wanting to get Sarr. There's a lot of talks about them potentially trying to move up into the draft and try to get the number 1 pick. It seems like the San Antonio Spurs are kind of fixated on either Sarr or Riziger. So we'll see if the Spurs are able to get either of them. But if you were to get, Riziger, then I think that Tobias makes sense, right? You still need a point guard, but there's talks about them maybe going, like, they could go trade for DeJounte Murray if Darius Garland becomes available. Apparently they're really enamored with Darius Garland. They want Darius Garland. So let's say best case scenario, say everything works out the way that the Spurs want. You could go and get a trade for Darius Garland. So now you have Garland, you have Vassell, you have Riziger, you have Victor Wembanyama, and then bring in Tobias Harris. I don't hate that. I don't really hate that idea, right? 'Cause, again, Tobias Harris at that point would be probably your fourth option, right? Because Victor Wembanyama is going to be your guy. Then you're going to have, Vassell and Darius Garland. Depending on how good Riziger is out the gate, Tobias Harris might end up being your fifth guy. And as your fifth guy, I think that's even better, right? Like I said, you're probably really good. So, and I think that he's, again, a vet that can come in, kind of be an adult in the room. Because you need some of those guys. You need guys that can be that adult in the room. I think he would play really well alongside Victor Wembanyama. I think, his skill set would balance. I think he's a guy that, like I said, on any given night can go and give you 30, right? Like, he's a guy, again, when he's on, he's a bucket, right? Like, it's just getting the inconsistencies. But if you have, a Garland and a Vassell and a Riziger and a Wemby, and, even if he's having a bad night or he's having an off night, it's not as impactful. Like, you're not as worried about that. It's not like, oh man, like, like with Philly, it's like, if Tobias Harris is a no-show, it just makes things really difficult for the Sixers on any given night. Because he was supposed to be, they're basically their third guy, right? He was being paid as such, being paid to basically be their second guy. But, with the Spurs, I think you could bring him in on a reasonable contract, right? Like, I wouldn't, you could go two routes, right? You could go the kind of JJ Redick rule where you basically overpay a guy for a year as like, salary, like a stopgap. Basically what the Indiana Pacers did with like Bruce Brown, right? To where they were able to go get Pascal Siakam, right? So you could maybe do something similar with Tobias Harris where, say you trade for Darius Garland, you trade for all these guys, and then, you give, say, $20 million or whatever to Tobias Harris. And it's like, hey, if a deal's on the table, we're probably going to trade you, but we are going to overpay you momentarily. And then also you could just let him go. Like if something better opens up next season, because this free agency isn't great. This isn't like some super stacked free agency where it's like, man, San Antonio's going to have all these options and all these opportunities to get this guy or that guy or this guy over there. Like, no, they're pretty like this free agency is very limited. So the Spurs are either going to just go the entire young route and, again, just have a bunch of young guys, or they're going to go and trade and get a piece, like I said, a Darius Garland or whatever, right? I don't hate bringing in a couple adults. Right? Like, I don't even hate bringing in Chris Paul. Even if you go trade for Darius Garland, I don't hate bringing in Chris Paul and having him come off the bench. Right? And have, like, Chris Paul and Tobias Harris as kind of your adults. Have those two as kind of your mentors for the young guys. But two guys that can also still make an impact on the basketball court. Right? So it's not like, like a Haslam situation where Haslam's never really seen the court. Right? Like, Tobias Harris is a guy that, again, still go get you 17 a game, right? Giving you a 17-point average. That'd go a long way for San Antonio, right? Bring in a guy like Chris Paul that can make plays and show things and help Darius Garland if you were to trade for him or whomever, right? Like even like a DeJounte Murray or whatever, right? Whichever point guard you end up getting. Because, look at what Chris Paul was able to do with SGA. SGA to this day talks about how much he is thankful for Chris Paul and that Chris Paul is the one that really shaped him, right? So, imagine what Chris Paul could do for, a Darius Garland, right? Like, I think San Antonio could really kind of round out the roster nice and bringing in a Tobias Harris to kind of play off some of the young guys and have a guy that just has a little bit of experience, right? That has been in the playoffs, has had some grueling battles and stuff, has hit some big shots and had some, solid games and stuff, right? Like, I think you could do worse, especially with this year's free agency. So it makes sense to me why San Antonio's interested. It's just, will they actually pursue him? We'll see. Time will tell. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you like the idea of bringing in Tobias Harris? Do you think like, yes, San Antonio, bring in Harris. He can slide in at the 4. Really kind of round out the roster nicely. Do you think, no, like stay away from Harris, go get other options or go the young route, right? Go or get a young center or something like that. Just, be patient and kind of grow and build this roster, because that's definitely an option. And I think that there's a real argument to go that way. But again, how you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.